The alarm bells screamed through the Valorian research station like dying animals. Commander Zintara pressed her back against the cold metal wall as another explosion shook the entire structure. Sparks flew from broken cables hanging from the ceiling. The lights flickered on and off, making scary shadows dance across the walls. "Commander, they've broken through Section 7, shouted Dr. Veltar from across the command center. His blue skin had turned pale with fear. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead where falling debris had hit him. Zintara looked at the main screen. Red warning lights blinked everywhere. The Kethmar raiders had come out of nowhere, like hungry wolves attacking sheep. Their black ships surrounded the peaceful research station like a net. Nobody knew why they had attacked. The Valorians had never hurt anyone. They only studied stars and planets. The Kethmar were different from other species in the galaxy. They were tall and thin with sharp teeth and claws like knives. Their skin was dark gray, almost black. They had no mercy, no kindness. They killed for fun and took whatever they wanted. Everyone in the galaxy feared them. "How many of our people are left?" Zintara asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Maybe 30 spread across the station," Dr. Veltar replied. His hands shook as he worked at his control panel. "The Kethmar have taken most of the lower levels. They're moving up fast." Another explosion made the floor shake. Dust fell from the ceiling like snow. Somewhere in the distance, Zintara could hear the terrible sounds of the Kethmar. They made clicking noises with their teeth and hissed like angry snakes. "Commander, we need to send a message," said Engineer Colvin from his station near the back wall. He was young, maybe the youngest Valorian on the station. His voice cracked with fear. "Someone has to know what happened here." Zintara nodded. It was their only chance. Maybe someone out there would help them. Maybe someone would remember the Valorians had tried to make the galaxy a better place. She ran to the communication station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. The main communication array was damaged, but the emergency system still worked. It could send a message across the galaxy to any ship or station that was listening. "This is Commander Zintara of Valorian Research Station Kepler 442. She spoke into the microphone. Her voice echoed through the empty hallways of the dying station. "We are under attack by Kethmar raiders. They came without warning. We have done nothing wrong. We are scientists, not soldiers. If anyone can hear this message, please help us. We have families. We have children. Please, someone help us." She sent the message on all frequencies. It would travel faster than light to every corner of the galaxy. Somewhere out there, someone might hear it. Someone might care. The communication panel sparked and went dark. The Kethmar had found the main power source. Dr. Veltar grabbed her arm. "Commander, they're in the upper levels now. We need to hide," but Zintara knew the truth. There was nowhere to hide. The station was not very big. The Kethmar would find them soon. They would kill everyone, just like they had done to so many other peaceful species. Far away, across the dark space between stars, the message traveled. It reached a Trill merchant ship, but Captain Wexta turned off his radio and flew away as fast as he could. The message found a Bolian military vessel, but Admiral Yellen ordered his ships to change course. Nobody wanted to fight the Kethmar. It was suicide. The message kept traveling. It found more ships, more stations, more worlds. Everywhere it went, people heard it and turned away. The galaxy was full of good people, but they were all afraid. The Kethmar were too strong, too cruel, too dangerous. On the research station, the lights went out completely. Zintara and her people sat in the dark medical bay, holding each other. They could hear the Kethmar getting closer. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hallways. Sharp claws scratched against metal walls. "At least we tried," whispered Dr. Veltar. "At least someone knows what happened here." But far away, in a quiet part of space, an old human colony ship called the New Soul picked up the message. Captain Dongwook sat in his command chair, listening to the Valorians' desperate words. His crew gathered around him, their faces serious. "Sir," said Tactical Officer He Jin, "we don't know anything about these Valorians. And the Kethmar. I've heard stories about them. They're very dangerous." Dongwook was quiet for a long moment. He was not a young man anymore. His black hair had gray streaks and lines marked his face from years of making hard choices. He had led his people through many dangers, but he had never heard such fear and sadness in anyone's voice. "How far away are they?" he asked. 3 days at maximum speed," replied Navigation Officer Jiho. "But sir, we're just one ship. We don't have military weapons. We're not soldiers." "Neither are they," Dongwook said. pointing at the communication station where the Valorian message still played. "They're scientists. They're asking for help." The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Everyone waited for the captain's decision. Outside the windows, stars shone like tiny diamonds against the black space. "Set course for the Valorian station," Dongwook said finally. "Maximum speed, sir?" Heejin looked shocked. "We can't fight the Kethmar. They'll kill us all." Dongwook stood up from his chair. He looked at each member of his crew. These were good people. They had families too. They deserved to live safe, quiet lives. But somewhere out there, innocent people were dying. "Maybe," he said. "But we're going to try anyway. Send a message to all human ships in this sector. Tell them where we're going and why." As the new soul changed course and jumped to faster than light speed, something strange happened. The message about humans coming began to spread across the galaxy. But it did not spread as good news. Old species, very old species, remembered stories their grandparents had told them. Stories about the humans, stories about the species that had been exiled from civilized space long ago. The humans were coming, and that terrified everyone even more than the Kethmar. The new soul moved through space like a silver arrow. Its old engines worked as hard as they could, pushing the ship faster than it had gone in years. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Jiho watched the temperature readings climb higher and higher. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he adjusted controls and checked systems. "Come on, old girl," he whispered to the ship. "Just a little bit more." The new soul was not a new ship. Humans had built it many years ago, before they had been forced to leave the main part of the galaxy. It had scratches and dents from countless journeys. Some of its systems were old and slow compared to what other species used now, but it was strong, and it had brought the human colonists safely through many dangers. On the bridge, Communications Officer Su Bin worked at her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as messages came in from across the galaxy. More and more species were talking about the humans. She listened to the alien voices with growing worry. "Captain," she said, turning to face Dongwook. "You need to hear this." She played a recording. The voice belonged to a Tellarite trader. "All ships be warned. The humans are moving toward the Kethmar attack. Stay away from that area. The humans are unpredictable." Another message played. This time it was an Andorian military commander. "Fleet Command, recommend immediate withdrawal from Sector 7. Human vessel detected. Repeat, humans are active in the area." Subin looked confused. "Sir, they sound afraid." "But we're trying to help people. Why are they afraid of us?" Dongwook frowned. He had always wondered why humans lived apart from other species. His grandparents had told him stories, but they were old stories. Maybe they were not true. Maybe they were just fairy tales. "Keep monitoring," he told Subin, "and try to contact the Valorian station. We need to know if they're still alive." While Subin worked, Tactical Officer Hyejin studied what little information they had about the Kethmar. The files were old, but they painted a terrible picture. The Kethmar had destroyed dozens of peaceful worlds. They took prisoners only to torture them. They had no honor, no mercy. Captain Hyejin said, "I've been thinking. We have mining equipment on board. Plasma cutters, magnetic grapplers, fusion charges for breaking apart asteroids. Maybe we can use them as weapons." "Do it," Dongwook replied. "Take whoever you need and start modifying our equipment. We may not be a warship, but we're not helpless." Far ahead of them, the Valorian research station continued to die slowly. Commander Zintara and her surviving people had barricaded themselves in the medical bay. It was one of the strongest rooms on the station, with thick walls and independent life support. But they could hear the Kethmar searching for them, getting closer each hour. Dr. Veltar sat against the wall, holding a small device in his hands. It was a medical scanner, but he had changed it to detect movement in the hallways outside. Every few minutes it beeped softly as a Kethmar warrior walked past their hiding place. "They're taking their time," he whispered. "They know we're here somewhere. They're enjoying the hunt." Young Engineer Colvin sat near the door, clutching a makeshift weapon he had built from spare parts. It was not much, just a tool that shot small energy bolts, but it made him feel a little braver. "Commander," he said quietly, "do you think anyone heard our message?" Zintara did not answer right away. She was listening to something else. In the distance, she could hear the Kethmar talking to each other. Their language sounded like animals fighting, all hisses and growls and clicking sounds. "I think someone heard us," she said finally, "but I don't think they're coming." She was wrong. Across the galaxy, in the great meeting halls of different species, emergency sessions were being held. The Vulcan Science Council gathered in their crystal chamber on Vulcan. The Trill Senate met in emergency session. Even the proud Klingons held war councils to discuss what was happening. "The humans are active again," reported Ambassador T'Pol to the Vulcan Council. "One of their ships is moving toward a conflict zone." "Curious," replied the elder Vulcan counselor. "It has been many years since humans involved themselves in galactic affairs." "Why now?" In the Trill homeworld, the Senate was not so calm. "This is disaster," shouted Senator Dax. "The humans were exiled for good reasons. They bring chaos wherever they go." "Perhaps," said an older senator, "but they also bring something else, something we have forgotten." The Klingons were split in their opinions. Some remembered the old stories with respect. "The humans were great warriors," said General Martok. "They fought like gods of war, never giving up, never retreating." "They were insane," replied another general. "They had no sense of honor, no proper way of fighting. They made up rules as they went along." But the strangest reaction came from a very old species called the Voth. They were ancient, older than almost any other species in the galaxy. Their representative, Elder Vothka, spoke in their council chamber deep underground on their homeworld. "The humans return," he said in his dry, cracked voice. "It has been 300 years since they were cast out. We thought they would die quietly in the dark spaces between stars. But they are still alive, still human." "What does this mean, Elder?" asked a younger Voth. "It means," the old one replied, "that perhaps we made a mistake long ago. The humans did not start wars. They ended them. They did not bring destruction. They prevented it. But they did it in ways that terrified us. They were willing to sacrifice everything, even their own lives, for complete strangers." While the galaxy debated and worried, the new soul continued its journey. In the ship's small workshop, Heejin and her team worked to turn mining tools into weapons. It was not easy. Human technology was different from what other species used. It was simpler in some ways, but also more flexible. "Hand me that plasma cutter," Heejin called to Taeyong, a young security officer who was helping her. "If we can increase the power and focus the beam, it might cut through Kethmar armor." Taeyong was nervous. He had never been in a real fight before. None of them had. The humans lived peacefully in their hidden colonies, far from trouble. "Do you think we can actually fight them?" he asked. "I don't know," Heejin admitted, "but we have to try. Those Valorians are counting on someone to help them." In another part of the ship, young Mi, the xenobiologist, studied everything she could find about Kethmar biology. She learned that they breathed a different type of air than most species. They were sensitive to certain frequencies of sound. They had excellent night vision but poor color vision. "Maybe we can use this," she thought. "Maybe we can find a way to hurt them without killing ourselves." As the new soul got closer to its destination, more and more ships began to follow it. Not to help, but to watch. They stayed far away, but they were there. Everyone wanted to see what would happen when humans met the Kethmar. On the bridge, Subin finally managed to get a weak signal from the Valorian station. It was just static mostly, but sometimes she could hear voices. Frightened voices. Voices that were running out of hope. "Captain," she reported, "I'm getting something from the station. They're still alive, but not for much longer." Dongwook nodded. "How much longer until we arrive?" 6 hours, replied Jiho from his engineering station. "Make it 4, Dongwook ordered. "Sir, the engines can't take much more," Jiho protested. "They don't have to take much more," the captain replied. "Just enough to get us there." In the medical bay of the dying research station, Commander Zintara felt the hope leaving her body like air from a broken balloon. The Kethmar had found their hiding place. She could hear them outside the door, talking and laughing. They were planning something terrible, but she did not know that help was coming. She did not know that somewhere in the dark between the stars, an old human ship was pushing itself to the breaking point. She did not know that humans had heard her call for help and decided to answer it, even though it might kill them all. The galaxy was about to remember why humans had been feared. The new soul dropped out of faster-than-light travel like a stone falling from the sky. Captain Dongwook gripped his chair as the ship shook and groaned from the sudden stop. Through the main window, he could see the Valorian research station in the distance. It looked like a broken toy floating in space. Parts of it were dark where the Kethmar had destroyed the power systems. Other parts glowed red from fires burning inside. Around the station, 5 black Kethmar ships moved in slow circles like sharks around a wounded fish. They were sleek and deadly, built only for war. Their hulls were covered in spikes and sharp edges that served no purpose except to look frightening. "Sir," reported Hyejin from her tactical station, "they've seen us. The Kethmar ships are turning toward us." "Good," Dongwook said calmly. "Subin, open a channel to all ships." "Channel open, sir." Dongwook stood up and straightened his uniform. He looked out at the enemy ships and spoke in a clear, strong voice. "This is Captain Dongwook of the human vessel New Soul. You are attacking innocent people. Leave now and no one else needs to get hurt." The answer came quickly. The voice that replied was harsh and full of clicking sounds. When the computer translated it, the words were simple and cruel. "Humans, we remember you. Come and die." The Kethmar ships began to move faster, heading straight for the New Soul. Their weapons started to glow with deadly energy. "Sir," Hyejin called out, "they're charging weapons. Should we retreat?" "No," Dongwook replied. "Jiho, give me everything the engines have." "Tae-young, are your teams ready?" From the security station, Lieutenant Tae-young nodded. His hands shook a little, but his voice was steady. "Yes, sir. We have the modified plasma cutters and magnetic grapplers ready. It's not much, but it's what we have." "It's enough," the captain said, "because we're not going to fight them the way they expect." What happened next shocked everyone watching from the distant ships scattered around the battle area. Instead of trying to run away or fight at long range like any sensible species would do, the New Soul did something completely insane. It flew straight at the biggest Kethmar ship. "Captain, what are you doing?" Hyejin shouted. "They'll destroy us." "Maybe," Dongwook replied. "But we're going to make them pay for it." The Kethmar opened fire with their main weapons. Bright beams of energy shot through space toward the human ship, but the New Soul was not where they expected it to be. Dongwook had ordered sudden course changes that made no sense to anyone watching. The ship zigged and zagged like a crazy person running through a crowd. "Human tactics," whispered an old Vulcan admiral who was watching from far away. "Completely illogical. Completely unpredictable." One energy beam clipped the New Soul's side, tearing a hole in the hull. Alarms screamed through the ship. Sparks flew from damaged controls. But the ship kept moving forward. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Jiho reported. "Emergency teams are sealing it now." "Keep us moving," Dongwook ordered. "Young Mi, are you ready?" From the science station, xenobiologist Young Mi nodded. She had spent the last few hours preparing something special. "Yes, sir. I've modified our life support system. When we get close enough, I can flood their ship with a gas that will make them sick, but won't hurt the Valorians." The New Soul crashed into the side of the Kethmar ship with a sound like thunder. Metal screamed against metal. Both ships spun wildly through space, locked together. "Now," Dongwook shouted. Tae-young and his team ran through the connecting tunnel between the ships. They carried the modified mining tools like weapons. The plasma cutters hummed with energy. The magnetic grapplers were ready to tear apart anything made of metal. Inside the Kethmar ship, chaos had broken loose. The warriors had never seen anything like this. Other species fought from a distance using careful tactics and proper strategies. They did not ram their ships into enemy vessels and then board them with mining equipment. The first Kethmar warrior that Tae-young met was 7 feet tall, with claws like knives and teeth like broken glass. It roared at the young human and raised its weapon. Tae-young was terrified, but he remembered the frightened voices of the Valorians calling for help. He aimed his modified plasma cutter and fired. The beam cut through the Kethmar's armor like it was made of paper. The alien fell to the floor, more surprised than hurt. It had never been defeated so easily. Behind Tae-young, other humans spread through the ship. They did not fight like soldiers. They fought like people who fix things for a living because that's what they were. When they found a locked door, they cut it open. When they found a weapon they did not understand, they took it apart. When they found Kethmar warriors, they used whatever was handy to stop them. Young Mi's gas began to spread through the enemy ship. The Kethmar started coughing and choking. Their eyes watered. Their movements became slow and clumsy. They had never faced an enemy who attacked their biology instead of just shooting at them. On the Valorian research station, Commander Zintara and her people heard the sounds of battle getting closer. But something was different. The Kethmar were not laughing anymore. They were shouting in fear and anger. "What's happening out there?" whispered Dr. Veltar. Before anyone could answer, the door to their hiding place exploded inward. But instead of a Kethmar warrior, a human woman stood in the doorway. She was small compared to the aliens, and her clothes were torn and dirty from fighting. But her eyes were kind. "Are you the Valorians?" she asked in their language. The computer translator in her helmet made her words understandable. Zintara could not speak. She just nodded. "My name is Heejin," the human said. "We got your message. We're here to help." Outside in space, something even more incredible was happening. 2 more Kethmar ships had arrived, probably called by the first group when they realized they were in trouble. Now the humans were outnumbered 6 ships to 1. Captain Dongwook looked at the odds and made another decision that no rational being would make. He ordered his crew to abandon the damaged Kethmar ship they had captured and return to the New Sol. Then he flew his ship directly at the largest enemy vessel. "Captain, you can't be serious," Jiho shouted from his engineering station. "If you ram them at full speed, it will destroy both ships." "I know," Dongwook replied calmly. "Make sure everyone is in the escape pods." "Sir, we're not leaving you," Heijin protested over the radio from the research station. "That's an order," the captain said firmly. "Get those Valorians to safety. That's why we came here." But before he could complete his suicidal attack, something unexpected happened. The remaining Kethmar ships suddenly stopped fighting. They turned around and flew away as fast as they could, leaving their damaged comrades behind. "Sir," Subin reported with amazement in her voice. "They're retreating." On the bridge of the fleeing Kethmar flagship, war leader Graktor spoke into his communicator with a voice full of fear. "All ships withdraw immediately. Broadcast this message to all Kethmar fleets. The humans have returned. They are still insane. They still fight like demons who do not fear death. Avoid human space at all costs." Across the galaxy, species that had been watching the battle sat in stunned silence. The humans had won, but not the way anyone had expected. They had not used superior technology or clever tactics. They had won by being willing to do things that no sane being would attempt. They rammed a warship with a colony vessel, whispered a Cardassian general, and it worked. They boarded an enemy ship with mining tools, added a Romulan admiral, and it worked. They were ready to sacrifice their own ship to save strangers, said a Klingon commander with what sounded almost like respect. And the enemy ran away. On the rescued research station, Zintara finally found her voice. She looked at the humans who had saved her people, these small, fragile beings who had come from nowhere to help complete strangers. "Why?" she asked Heijin. "Why did you risk everything for us? You don't even know us." Heijin looked confused by the question. "You asked for help," she said simply. "How could we not come?" That simple answer traveled across the galaxy faster than any spaceship. The humans had not changed. They were still the species that would fight impossible odds to protect people they had never met. They were still the ones who treated every stranger like family, every cry for help like a sacred duty. The galaxy remembered why they had been afraid of humans. But now they also remembered why they had been wrong to cast them out. The rescued Valorian research station slowly came back to life. Human engineers worked alongside Valorian scientists to repair the damage. Lieutenant Heijin watched as Youngmi helped Dr. Veltar fix a broken medical scanner. They could not speak each other's languages very well, but somehow they understood each other perfectly. "It's strange," Heijin said to Commander Zintara as they stood in the main corridor. "We just met your people, but it feels like we've known you forever." Zintara nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. The humans were different from any species she had ever met. They were smaller and softer than most aliens, but there was something about them that made her feel safe. Even after everything that had happened, even though she barely knew them, she trusted them completely. "Can I ask you something?" Zintara said carefully. "My people have heard stories about humans. Old stories. Some say you were exiled from the main galaxy long ago. Is that true?" Heijin's face became sad. "Yes, it's true. But we never knew why. My grandparents told me stories, but they were children when it happened. They said the other species made us leave, but they never said why. Would you like to know?" Zintara asked quietly. Before Heijin could answer, Subin's voice came over the communication system. "Lieutenant Heijin, please come to the communication center. You need to see this." In the communication center, Subin had been working with the Valorian computers. Her face was pale as she looked up from a screen full of alien text. "I've been accessing the Galactic database," Subin explained. I found files about humans. Old files. Very old. She pressed a button and the screen filled with images and text. The computer translated the alien words into human language. What they read made them all go quiet. Species, classification, human. The file began. Status. Exiled by Galactic Council Resolution 2847. Reason. Incompatible with civilized behavior standards. That doesn't sound so bad, Youngmi said, reading over Subin's shoulder. Keep reading, Subin said grimly. The file continued. Humans demonstrate persistent inability to follow rational behavioral patterns. They consistently risk their own lives to protect other species, including enemies. They refuse to accept acceptable casualty rates in conflicts. They treat all sentient beings as equal regardless of species classification or social status. This behavior is considered dangerous to galactic stability. Heejin stared at the screen. They exiled us because we helped people? There's more, Subin said. She scrolled down to another section. Look at this, a new document appeared. This one was labeled The Great Silence Final Report. The Great Silence? Youngmi asked. What was that? Subin read aloud. The Great Silence was a galactic war that lasted 847 standard years. It ended only when human forces intervened in the Battle of the Seven Worlds. Human tactics were considered so disturbing that all major species agreed to exclude them from future galactic affairs. She clicked on another file. This one contained videos from the ancient war. The images were grainy and old, but they showed human ships doing impossible things. They saw human soldiers sharing their food with enemy prisoners. They saw human doctors treating wounded aliens even while under attack. They saw humans sacrificing their own ships to protect civilian populations. We ended a war that lasted almost 900 years, Heejin whispered, and they threw us out for it. Dr. Veltar, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. There are more files here. Personal records from species leaders during that time. He opened a new document. This one was from a Vulcan diplomat. The humans do not understand the concept of acceptable losses. Today I watched a human captain destroy his own ship to save a transport full of Romulan children. The Romulans were our enemies. The captain knew this. He saved them anyway. Such behavior cannot be predicted or controlled. Another record from a Klingon general. I do not understand these humans. They fight like warriors, but they show mercy to the defeated. They treat cowards and heroes the same way. They make alliances with anyone who asks for help, regardless of politics. They are either the bravest species in the galaxy or the most foolish. Perhaps there is no difference. A Cardassian scientist had written, human brain chemistry is unique among known species. They produce unusually high levels of chemicals associated with empathy and self-sacrifice. When faced with the suffering of others, their rational thought becomes secondary to emotional response. This makes them unpredictable in diplomatic situations. Young Mai looked up from the screen with tears in her eyes. They were afraid of us because we cared too much. Not afraid, Zintara corrected gently. Ashamed? They were ashamed because you showed them what they had stopped being. Heejin felt angry for the first time since the battle, so they cast us out. They let us think we had done something wrong. For 300 years we lived in exile, thinking we were the problem. You were the problem, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Captain Dongwook entering the communication center. His uniform was torn and dirty from helping with repairs, but his eyes were clear and calm. Sir? Heejin looked confused. We were the problem, Dongwook explained. Not because we were wrong, but because we made them uncomfortable. We reminded them of something they had lost. He walked over to the screen and looked at the ancient files. My grandfather told me stories about the old days. He said that once all species in the galaxy were like us. They helped each other. They shared what they had. They treated strangers like family. What happened? Young Mi asked. They grew up, Dongwook said sadly. They became smart and careful and practical. They learned to think before they acted. They learned to consider costs and benefits. They learned to put their own people first always. Subin frowned. But that sounds reasonable. It is reasonable, the captain agreed. It's perfectly logical. It's also how you end up with wars that last 900 years. Dr. Veltar touched one of the computers, bringing up another file. There's something else here. A recording from the last Galactic Council meeting before the exile. The screen filled with the image of a great chamber. Hundreds of alien species sat in a circle, all looking toward the center where a human woman stood alone. She was elderly, with gray hair and a face marked by sadness. "That's Ambassador Sarah Chen," Dongwook said quietly. She was the last human representative to the Galactic Council. They listened as the ancient recording played. The human ambassador's voice was calm but filled with pain. "You ask us to change," she said to the assembled aliens. "You ask us to think like you do, to act like you do. You want us to calculate the cost of every life we save. You want us to consider the politics before we help someone in trouble. You want us to be practical." She paused and looked around the great chamber. "But if we become like you, who will save the ones you decide are not worth saving? Who will help the species that are too small or too weak to matter in your great games? Who will hear the cry for help from someone you have decided is your enemy?" The alien representative sat in uncomfortable silence. "We cannot be what you want us to be," the ambassador continued. "We cannot stop caring about everyone just because it makes you uncomfortable. If that means we must leave, then we will leave. But we will not change who we are." The recording ended. The communication center was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the distant sounds of repairs being made. "She was right," Zintara said finally. "If you had changed, if you had become like the rest of us, we would be dead now. The Kethmar would have killed us and no one would have come to help." Hijin looked around at her fellow humans. "So what do we do now? Do we go back to hiding in our colonies? Do we pretend the galaxy doesn't need us?" Captain Dongwook smiled for the first time since the battle. "No, we do what we've always done. We help people who need help. And if the galaxy doesn't like it, they can exile us again." He walked over to the communication station. "Subin, open a channel to all human colonies. It's time to tell our people the truth about who we are and why we're here." "Yes, sir," Subin replied, her fingers moving over the controls. "Channel open." Dongwook took a deep breath and began to speak. "This is Captain Dongwook of the New Soul, broadcasting to all human settlements. Today we learned something important about our past. We learned that we were not cast out because we were wrong. We were cast out because we were right. Across the galaxy, in hidden colonies and secret settlements, humans stopped what they were doing and listened to their captain's words. For 300 years we have hidden in the dark between stars. We have lived quietly, hoping not to bother anyone. But today people needed our help and we remembered who we really are. We are the ones who come when others will not. We are the ones who help when it seems hopeless. We are the ones who care when everyone else has stopped caring." The message spread from colony to colony, from ship to ship. In listening posts throughout the galaxy, other species heard it too and trembled. The humans were no longer hiding. 3 months after the rescue of the Valorian research station, the galaxy had changed. Not in the way that wars or politics usually change things, but in a deeper way. Something had awakened that had been sleeping for 300 years. Captain Dongwook stood on the bridge of the New Soul, looking out at a sight that still amazed him. Dozens of human ships moved through space around them. They were not warships, but colony vessels, mining ships, research craft, and passenger transports. Each one carried volunteers who had answered the call to help. "Sir," reported Subin from her communication station, "we're receiving another distress signal. This one is from the Pakled homeworld. They say raiders are attacking their trading routes." "The Pakleds," Dongwook mused. "They're not very smart, but they're peaceful. How far away are they?" 2 days at current speed," replied Navigation Officer Jiho. "Set course," the captain ordered. "And send word to the other ships. Tell them we have work to do." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Lieutenant Tae Young, now commanding his own ship, led a rescue mission to help the Bolians defend their agricultural colonies. Young Mi had established the first human medical research station in 3 centuries, working with dozens of alien species to develop new treatments for diseases that affected everyone. But the most important changes were happening in the great halls where the galaxy's leaders met to make decisions. The Vulcan homeworld. The Science Council gathered in emergency session for the 4th time that month. Elder T'Pol stood before the assembled Vulcans, her face showing more emotion than any Vulcan had displayed in years. "The humans have answered 47 distress calls in the past 3 months, she reported. They have stopped 6 pirate raids, rescued survivors from 3 natural disasters, and prevented 2 wars from starting. Most illogical, commented one of the younger counselors. They gain nothing from these actions. They risk their ships and their lives for strangers. Indeed, T'Pol replied, and yet their actions have brought more peace to the galaxy. than our last century of diplomatic negotiations. In the great assembly hall of the Klingon Empire, General Martok paced before the High Council like a caged animal. His voice echoed off the stone walls as he spoke. The humans fight like Klingons, but they also show mercy like I do not know what. They saved a Romulan colony yesterday. Romulans are enemies for generations, and when the Romulan commander offered them money as payment, do you know what they said? The council waited in silence. They said, "Just help someone else when you can. That is all. No payment, no treaty, no political advantage. Just help someone else when you can." General Worf, an old warrior with many scars, spoke up. "Perhaps that is what honor really looks like. Not glory in battle, but protection of the innocent." Even in the cold halls of the Romulan Senate, things were changing. Senator Tellura stood before her colleagues with a face that showed confusion and something that might have been shame. "The humans have saved 17 Romulan ships this month," she reported. "They have asked for nothing in return. Our intelligence services cannot determine their hidden motives because they appear to have none." "Everyone has motives," protested another senator. "Yes," Tellura agreed. "But the humans' motive seems to be simply that they want to help. Our analysts call it pathological altruism. They say it is a mental illness that makes humans unable to ignore the suffering of others." The most surprising change came from an unexpected source. In the dark space where the Kethmar raiders had their secret bases, war leader Graktor faced a problem he had never encountered before. His warriors were refusing to attack certain targets. "The humans are here," reported his lieutenant, a scarred veteran of many raids. "They answer every call for help. They come for anyone, anywhere. So we avoid the humans," Graktor growled. "The galaxy is large. You do not understand," his lieutenant said nervously. "They protect everyone now. Every trade route, every colony, every research station. If we attack anyone, the humans come, and they bring friends." It was true. Wherever humans went to help, they inspired others to do the same. Species that had ignored distress calls for centuries suddenly found themselves sending aid to their neighbors. The humans' simple question echoed across the galaxy. How could we not help? On the Valorian research station, now fully repaired and expanded, Commander Zintara worked with human engineers to build something new. It was a communication array more powerful than anything ever created before. Its purpose was simple: to make sure that no cry for help would ever go unheard again. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Dr. Veltar as he watched the humans install the final components. "It will work," Hyejin assured him. She had been promoted to admiral and now coordinated rescue operations across 3 sectors. "The signal will reach every ship, every station, every colony in known space. When someone needs help, everyone will know." 3 days later, the new system was tested. A merchant ship carrying food to a famine-stricken world sent out a distress call when pirates attacked them. Within hours, 17 different species had sent ships to help. The pirates fled without firing a shot, outnumbered and confused by the response. But the greatest test came when the Galactic Council finally decided they could no longer ignore what was happening. The ancient chamber where Earth's last ambassador had spoken her final words filled once again with representatives from across the galaxy. This time, it was Admiral Hyejin who stood in the center of the Great Circle. She looked smaller than the alien beings around her, but her voice carried clearly through the vast space. "You called us here," she said simply. "What do you want?" The Vulcan representative, Ambassador Sarek, spoke first. "The Council wishes to discuss the possibility of renewed relations with humanity." "You mean you want us to stop helping people?" Hyejin replied. "Not stop," said the Cardassian delegate quickly, "but perhaps coordinate your efforts with galactic authorities. Work within established systems." Hyejin looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces. Some looked hopeful, others worried, many ashamed. "Let me ask you something," she said. "In the 3 months since we started answering distress calls, how many wars have ended?" 7, admitted the Trill representative quietly. "How many new wars have started?" "None," said the Klingon delegate. "How many species have started helping their neighbors for the first time in generations?" The chamber was silent. They all knew the answer. 43, Hyejin said for them. 43 species have rediscovered what it means to care about strangers. They have remembered what you all forgot when you exiled us. She walked slowly around the circle, looking each representative in the eyes. You want to coordinate our efforts? You want us to work within your systems? Your systems are what created 900 years of war. Your systems are what let pirates and raiders terrorize innocent people while everyone looked the other way. But surely, protested the Romulan senator, there must be some organization, some structure. There is, Heejin said. When someone calls for help, we help them. When someone is in danger, we protect them. When someone is hungry, we feed them. That's our structure. An old Andorian general stood up slowly. His blue skin was pale with age and his antennae twitched with emotion. Admiral, he said, I was there 300 years ago when we exiled your people. I voted for it. I thought we were protecting galactic stability. The chamber held its breath. I was wrong. The general continued. We were not protecting stability. We were protecting our own comfort. We did not want to feel guilty when we ignored cries for help. We did not want to feel ashamed when we chose politics over compassion. He looked around at his fellow delegates. The humans have not changed in 300 years. They are still the species that will sacrifice everything to save anyone, but we have changed. We became cold. We became practical. We became afraid to care about anyone but ourselves. What are you saying? Asked the Vulcan ambassador. I am saying, the old Andorian replied, that we should not be trying to change the humans. We should be trying to become like them again. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. When the final vote was taken, it was unanimous. The exile was ended. Humanity was invited back into galactic civilization, but Admiral Hyejin surprised them all with her response. Thank you, she said, but we were never really gone. We've been here all along waiting for you to remember who you used to be, she smiled. And for the first time in 300 years, the galactic chamber felt warm. We'll accept your invitation on one condition, she continued. From now on, this council's first question about any situation will not be, what do we gain? Or what are the risks? It will be, how can we help? The delegates looked at each other, then at the small human woman who had just changed the course of galactic history with a simple request for kindness. Agreed, said Ambassador Sarek for all of them. Outside the council chamber, Captain Dong-wook waited with Subin and Jiho. When Admiral Hyejin emerged, she was smiling. How did it go? Dong-wook asked. They want to learn how to be human again, she replied. Subin's communication device chimed with an incoming message. She checked it and looked up with excitement. Admiral, we're getting a distress call from the Outer Rim. A colony ship is trapped in an asteroid.